What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to another Resplendent review. Today I'm going to be taking a look at Raven, and this is going to be a comprehensive analysis on him and the builds that you can run on him in the modern times, and at the end I'll have a theory craft about his re-refine. As always, if you do enjoy these day 1 Resplendent reviews as they get announced, I would really appreciate if you could leave a like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a lot, and with that said, let us get into this. So Raven is a launch unit and he's an Axe Infantry unit. He does have his Basilikos weapon refine, but this weapon refine was one of the earliest, so it's pretty basic overall, and it's kind of outdated compared to the effects of the modern weapons right now, but still it is quite functional because of the -1 special cooldown, which can make him a pretty good Galeforce unit for a Gen 1 unit. The Life and Death weapon refine does help him with his offenses, but does cost him his defense and resistance. So for a launch unit like Raven, any kind of extra stats to his offenses is really amazing for him, for his role. Raven can also be compared to Linus, who also has the same weapon and refine in Basilikos. So Raven pretty much does everything that Linus does, but slightly better because of the Resplendent stats. And the only thing Linus has got going for him is the fact that he has got 5 extra defense. Other than that, Raven is pretty much cheaper to build because he does not take rails and he does not take any kind of trade fruits to get his IVs. So it's a lot cheaper to build up a Resplendent Raven. Even if Raven goes for a plus attack IV, he's still going to be having more speed than Linus and having extra attack stat. If you go with plus speed IV, then he ends up having 4 more speed than Linus, and that is pretty good if you're running Flashing Blade or any kind of damage reduction skill. Charlotte recently got released, and she also has a similar weapon to Raven, with having -1 special cooldown and also giving her extra offenses. But keep in mind that Charlotte does not take any penalty on her defense or resistance, unlike Basilikos, and she also gets true damage based on 15% of her attack stat. So this pretty much means that even an unmerged Charlotte is going to be having better damage output than a max invested Raven because of that true damage. And if you have something like a plus speed IV Charlotte with +1 merge, then she will pretty much give you same performance as a max invested, fully merged and fully Dragonflower Raven. In fact, she's going to be having better damage output because of the true damage, of course, and her bulk is really similar to Raven despite not taking any kind of penalty on her defense and resistance because she's just more optimized as a modern unit. So this is to be expected because Raven is a launch unit, and also he got one of the first weapon refines. So Resplendent version of Raven definitely came at the perfect time. Raven unfortunately doesn't have any kind of useful super boon. You are mainly going to be going for plus attack IV or plus speed IV. Both are pretty good at max investment. At lower merges, you definitely want to go with the plus speed IV so that you can get the doubles. And even at max investment, I personally prefer having plus speed IV. We have seen a lot of really fast units nowadays, and there are a lot of debuffs and also lull skills and stuff like that. So having that extra speed is really good, especially when Raven likes to use stuff like Flashing Blade and the damage reduction skills. So I personally prefer plus speed IV, but plus attack is also fine at max investment. As for his builds, you can go with a triple life and death to have a single digit resistance stat. You can of course go with Fury on his slot A, but triple life and death is really fun, so you could do that on a budget, and you can definitely run this kind of build even at max investment. So he will not be able to use Galeforce with this build because you're not running Flashing Blade. So you want to have a low cooldown special like Moonbow or Glimmer. At lower investment, Moonbow is definitely going to be better. You can also run him with a budget Galeforce build by just using Flashing Blade and having Galeforce. In slots C, you could use stuff like a Rouse skill or Speed Smoke or even use Savage Blow. So again, the second build can also be used at max investment, and it doesn't really take any kind of too expensive fodder. The third build is pretty much the updated build that you can run with Life and Death 10 by having Life and Death 4 and having the new Frenzy skill from Charlotte. So Raven is a pretty good user of Frenzy because obviously he has got pretty similar stat spread to Charlotte at max investment. So you can make use of the desperation that it has got going, and the damage reduction definitely helps him because he is not having very high bulk here. And you can run Glimmer at max investment, and Time Pulse is going to be making Glimmer into a pre-charged special, which means that you can trigger it twice in the player phase if the enemy counterattacks. So when you're outside of the desperation range, it's really good to just trigger it, and when you're in the desperation range, having that pre-charged Glimmer is still good if you're facing any kind of opponent who has got a guard effect. So you can still trigger your special right away. So having Glimmer, Moonbow or Ruptured Sky with Time Pulse is pretty good with Raven when you're running a triple life and death build. And if you want to run him with a Galeforce build, then you can run Flashing Blade 4, which is available from the Divine Code section. That will be giving him the true damage. And in Sacred Seal, you just want to go with any kind of offensive option like Blade Session, a solo skill, and of course, Life and Death. If you do not have Frenzy, then you can just go with the good old Desperation, because Raven is not very bulky, and being in the Desperation range is really helpful because he does have a 4-turn Galeforce, and with Flashing Blade you could still trigger that in the Desperation range if you attack twice. If you want to invest a bit more into this kind of Galeforce build, then you can definitely run Frenzy to have that damage reduction and have that Desperation at the lower threshold. We don't really need Time Pulse because Galeforce is already a 4-turn special, so you can run Odd Tempest to increase his movement. So you could have this kind of build with double red and triple green. You can also use him in Arena with Green Dual Infantry 4, but I would argue that using someone like Ninja Hana or Kalik as a 180 BST unit is much better because they can run Distant Counter or any other slotty skill to just bait out ranged units, which is much better than what Raven can do. Raven is mainly going to be used as a Galeforce unit with a damage reduction skill in Arena with G-Dual Infantry 4. So you want to run Flashing Blade and have Close Call. Close Call can be obtained from the Divine Code section, and the movement is really helpful in Arena because we don't have positional skills that we're allowed to use. His slot C is quite flexible, you can just go with anything that is in your budget, but Panic Ploy can work out with his HP. And if you want to invest even more into him for Arena purpose, then you can of course run Frenzy. This is pretty much the only way you can have Desperation in Arena without losing out on some points. And you can have a pre-charged Ruptured Sky at start of every turn by running Time Pulse, and that can really help you in the player phase when you can trigger it twice if the enemy counterattacks. And you can also use this against opponents who have the guard effect and will not let you charge up your special. So pretty much going to be having higher damage output and Desperation compared to the Galeforce build, which does give you more options for cleanup. So it depends on you which build you want to run. Raven can also be used in Aether Raid's offense as a Galeforce unit because of his 4-turn Galeforce. You can simply run Flashing Blade 4 on his slot A and have Wings of Mercy. So you can use him to teleport into any kind of Wings of Mercy beacon like Air, Ninja Lin, or any kind of Galeforce unit that you're going to be using for initiation. And his high HP can be used for Infantry Pulse to pulse down someone like Dagger or any kind of Infantry Galeforce unit. And double Life and Death can be run, but keep in mind that you might be a target of Bright Shrine many times because of his high offenses. In Aether Raid's offense Astro Season, you can also use him because here you can have some variety. In the Light Season, you already have Dagger, who's a Axe Infantry unit. In the Astro Season, we don't really have that. You're mainly going to be using red units here, like Regan and Plumeria. So you can use Raven as an initiator against many of the Astro teams which have Saros. With this kind of build, even without the Divine Fang buff, Raven can easily kill Saros and most of the time fall into the Wings of Mercy range. Fury is really helpful in falling into the Wings of Mercy range of your other Galeforce allies and dancers, so Null Follow-Up is going to be helping you against Saros, and he does have that Weapon Strangle advantage, so that is pretty good and this can definitely be useful in Astra Season. Of course, not the most consistent Galeforce initiator, but still, he does have a better matchup against Saros, which can be helpful. And finally, if you want to have a one-tap Galeforce, which means that you can just hit once and trigger your Galeforce, then you'll have to run Time Pulse and Quicken Pulse to have a 2-turn Galeforce. Raven is a launch unit, so here's my theory craft on his Refine. So I would keep the -1 special cooldown of course, which is really good for his Galeforce capability, and then similar to Ira's Blade, I would give him visible +3 attack and speed. So that can help him a bit with his offenses. And in the Weapon Refinery part, I'll still have the Life and Death Weapon Refine, but will give him an extra effect. So at start of combat, if the foe is above 75% HP, then he can neutralize any kind of penalty to his attack stat, and he can neutralize any kind of bonuses to foes, speed, and defense. So the penalty neutralization on his attack and speed is really relevant, because Life and Death Refine gives you extra visible stats, and as you have seen in the primary condition, I've also given him extra visible attack and speed. So he's gonna be a magnet for chill attack, chill speed, or bright shrine, and having that kind of penalty neutralization in my opinion is really good. Raven most of the time is not gonna be running a lull skill in slot B, he's mostly gonna be running desperation or some kind of damage reduction skill, so having this kind of dull speed defense is really helpful and allows him to hit harder and be faster. So the enemies cannot really use their buffs to their speed and defense against him, and that can also help him with his flashing blade triggers. So let me know what you think about my theory craft on his Refine. I'll be eager to hear that in the comments, and make sure to share this video with your friends who are really excited about Resplendent Raven because his art is absolutely top tier. So make sure to share this video with them as I went over a lot of modern options, and I want to thank all of my YouTube members for their constant support. If you enjoyed, then please be sure to leave a like and a comment, helps me tremendously, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Raven's Resistance with a triple life and death build. So that's it, I'll see you guys next time, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.